Athletic dads, welcome back to the YouTube channel. We have the highly anticipated training session with World Long Drive Rookie of the Year, Roni Shin. Why don't you tell the people what we are going to get into after about losing 40 minutes of this training session from microphone technical difficulties. Let everybody know what we're going to do today.
Today we got some snatches, some jumps, some banded squats, and some accessories. Keep it nice and simple like we usually do. Just
Beautiful.
Get after it.
Again, Roni hits a golf ball farther than anybody watching, so we're going to ask a lot of questions about how he's kind of developed his skill, not only on the golf side to be able to shoot low, but also what he's doing in his training, because he does training differently than any other golfer I've ever been around. So enjoy the session. We're going to talk a little bit, we're going to lift something heavy, and we'll have a good time. Here we go. So I want to ask first, you were a Division I golfer, and then after a pretty good college career, you found yourself in World Long Drive competitions. Talk us through how that happened, how you got to kind of where you were, and then how that first season went, and talk us about where you're at now.
Yeah, well, so, yeah, I mean, tournament golf probably started when I was 10, 11, played all the way through Bowling Green State Division I, 4 years there. I was always like a longer hitter in my youth, and everybody when I was playing in tournaments would be like, dude, you got to check out this World Long Drive thing, like be really good at it. So graduated uni, it was like March of 2023, went down, visited, got a long drive set up, and started swinging as hard as I could. Trained all of April, and then did a month of training. Come May of 2024, all of this, made a debut, and then came second at Port Rowan, qualified for Worlds, and here we are, one season in. First event I qualified for Worlds.
That's right.
Then like 2 events after that came second to the current world number 1, Colton Castro, great guy. Played the rest of the season, went to Worlds, did okay. Here we are. Difference equipment-wise from long drive, regular drive, well, the heads are the most noticeable. We play 4.5-degree heads, which is like, you know, about half of the amount of loft that you would usually use on a driver for most golfers. It's about a loft of a putter. The faces are a lot thicker, you know, because the ball's coming off at 220 some odd miles an hour. Most standard driver heads can't withstand that kind of beating for 100. And we only have one club, so when you're beating that same club over and over again, like, just more metal, like, you know. So that's the main difference. With the shaft, a little bit longer, a lot of bit longer, 48 inches. USGA is legally 46. It used to be 48 inches. And some of the shafts that I use, Kinetics golf shafts, they have 2 kick points instead of a standard 1. Yeah, this one, they have 2 kick points. I really like it. I play the Kinetics D10. It's that pink shaft, if you've ever seen any of the videos. Train a lot with the D30. D30 is a little bit stiffer. Speed difference isn't much, but the perceived effort. They measure stiffness in CPM, so the D10's a lesser CPM shaft. And so that kind of stuff, yeah, I'm just comfortable with it. I only compete with the D10. Most every other competitor is like a D30 guy.
All right, so our broad jump variation is going to be a double broad jump. We're going into a single leg bound, right and left, and then finish on a 2-foot broad jump. We were going single leg finish, feels better, just finish with both of them. We got them marked, always good if you're doing jumps for distance to give yourself something to chase. So we're going 2, 2, 1, 1, 2. Nice. And this is what I was kind of talking about in the intro, like Roni is jumping max effort for distance. I don't know how many clips you see of golfers, pro golfers, on social media, but I don't think I've found one of them actually jumping for distance. I mean, have you felt benefits in your performance specifically for golf and hitting the ball far by adding jumps into your training?
So yeah, you don't even have to get too crazy with it. You just have to, like, put a little bit of maximal force into a specific jump. One day horizontal, one day vertical. It's really all you need. I mean, if you have a measuring device, like, you know, we use jump mats, we use the Vault force plates, that's cool. If not, just go out and jump high, and then go out and jump far. Like, it doesn't take much. It helps. You move, you know how to learn, or you learn how to move your body faster, further, apply more force, that kind of stuff, which is...
Yeah, we're kind of in this what's optimal, what's perfect for specificity. And I think that's what ends up talking people out of jumping variously, jumping for height, jumping for distance.
Sure.
Is because if people can't, they don't do it in their sport, they might think, how's that gonna benefit me when it comes to the field that I play, or where does it benefit me when I'm hitting a golf ball?
Yeah.
But people need to understand that strength training is just generally improving athletic qualities, right? Like improving the ability to produce force. So if you look at strength training as generally improving athletic qualities, and you understand that in your sport, hitting a golf ball, you've got to produce a ton of force, it makes sense to do exercises where your body is challenged to produce force. And you've trained our style. You've trained with us since 2020.
Yep.
Training before that, did that look differently? What did that look like? And then when you got into training kind of our style, why did you stick with training this way?
I think 2019 at Bowling Green is when I first started like really working out. So even when I got to T3, it was like a new thing. I came because it was like, I really stuck for the culture. You know, it was definitely different than what you normally do. Yeah. Like for me, summer is still in season. And so I was working out the T3 way, you know what I mean? So it's like hard and heavy. I remember carrying like cinder blocks down the road as a finisher. I'm like, dude, what the hell is going on? Like, you know, and it's CT and James running these sessions. But yeah, I really just stuck because the culture was so fun to be around, all the different collegiate athletes, different sports that you got to train with. But yeah, I mean, it was just mainly that. And I know we're doing like crazy snatch variations, crazy jump variations, but like it doesn't have to, it never started this way either. Like start with your jumps, jump high, jump often, pull stuff heavy often, like find something you like and stick with it.
Yeah, when you're talking about the culture, we had a summer or two where we had golfers training with softball players, training with football players, training with track athletes, and everybody did the same thing. Right. So that would turn some people off. Again, looking at the idea of specificity, I could see how that would turn people off. But if you get a culture where people show up, work hard, enjoy being around the other people, feel like they're respected and appreciated and loved by the coaches, then that, I heard somebody say, that's the ultimate PED. Right, is the culture that you surround yourself in makes anything possible if it's a good culture. Also totally gets you out of strength and conditioning if it's a bad culture.
Yeah, agreed.
You approached it as like, these are cool people to hang out with, let me try this, and then had a ton of success with it, and obviously have continued to do that since that year, which is awesome.
I think that's the beauty of what this is about, you know. But, you know, I was talking to Sean Roy. That was a funny nickname somebody said. Sean Roy and Cannon Kerr at Avon. Yeah. We were talking about, like, that 2020 summer and how elite it was and how much fun we all had. It's like, obviously we miss it, but I see that as, like, a good thing. Anytime you can look back and, like, miss something probably means it was a good time. Yeah. Like, as opposed to looking back at something and being like, wow, I really hated that. So...
You know,
yeah, it's good.
Can you train at the intensity that we train 4 days a week, 5 days a week, for still 5 years, right? Like that would be, eventually something's got to be.
Right. 100%. And I don't think you could train that hard that often without like a good crew of people around you anyways. So.
Trying to beat that cone. 2-2. Yes.
An athletic dad.
Yeah. Yes. I'm interested too, would a long driver help a mid-90s golfer, or does it take a completely different skill set to be able to use the long drive clubs?
A 48-inch long driver, would it help you? I don't.
Does that benefit me at all?
I think it would help you swing faster. It wouldn't necessarily help you, in the accuracy department.
Yeah.
But what it would do is it would allow you to access power easier, if that makes sense. If you take your peak swing speed, let's call it, from 90 miles an hour to 100, that 90 miles an hour is now 90% instead of your 100%.
Yeah.
So like it'll help in that department. As for the golf game, I would just stick to playing golf. Because if you're swinging at 120 miles an hour with a regular club, you're not swinging at 160 all of a sudden just because you added a couple inches to your driver length. Does it add a few miles an hour? Yes. Yeah, it does. But yeah, it's not as egregious as some people think it is. But I think everybody should speed train to like a certain extent, even if you are a regular golfer. Because again, like if you increase that ceiling, you have more access to more speed more effortlessly. Yeah. So like that helps, especially if you're trying to play tournament golf. And I mean, I've done this. It's like every event we go to is 36 holes and then 18 holes. So it's like, it's a long few days. If you can do what you've been doing easier, it makes that process just a little bit easier. And that's really all you're looking for at the highest levels.
You with a regular driver still hit it further than everybody I've ever played golf with.
100%, yeah.
So you have to start there. So the people who say I could hit the ball where they hit it if I have that technology probably still aren't 300 off the tee, definitely aren't 330. Yeah. Like what was your, I guess, longest drive with regular equipment before you started souping it up and like really getting into it?
With the regular driver, I could always get it by for anybody who knows like golf metrics, I probably got, 205 plus ball speed, around 100 and high 130s, low 140s with the regular golf club. That was before I really started long drive itself. Now my new max is like distance, on the course, I could carry it 330 whenever I wanted to, and whatever the rollout on top of it, given the conditions. Sure. If you're in Arizona or if you're in Colorado, high altitude, you're adding, 10-15%, so 330 now becomes, 365 carry right away. So, yeah, I mean, definitely have always been on the longer side.
And that's why you had so many people say, hey, you should look into this.
Yeah, 100%. Every tournament I played, I think at least once somebody would come and tell me to do long drive. That's awesome. And at the time, I didn't even know what long drive was. Nice. That looks easy. Jesus.
Again, you mentioned dads, like, you don't have to start here, right? It's just like you're talking about with golf, right? And that's something that I want people to understand, because I'm interested in inspiring those individuals who were high school athletes, were college athletes, and then now play recreational and don't know why they can't get up and down a basketball court, but 4 or 5 times before they need to get subbed out. They don't know why when they go to dunk like they used to in college, that they can't do that anymore, right? When they ultimately haven't trained that way for years, right? So I want people to understand that you can get that back. It's gonna take some time, but you shouldn't be double snatching 205, because I fortunately haven't stopped.
Yeah.
Right? So you gotta start somewhere, but it's important to just like, if that's a goal, if that's something you want to do, if you want to be capable and you be strong and fast and jump, that you start training at some point. You start training athletically, and you start training like you, right? Or you train like James, who we had on last week, right? And all this stuff is possible.
There's another athletic dad.
Yes. 2 good ones. Yes. Yes. Yep, bands are off. Double it.
Yeah, let's double.
Too much? Okay, so talk about that. Goal is to swing as fast as you can. What does training need to look like?
I want to say 12 weeks. I was working out with the pro baseball group with James DiBiasio. Shout out James. It was basically like hard and heavy. A lot of volume, a lot of heavy weights. Things might not be moving super fast. You hit a 600-pound deadlift, like, you know how that moves, like, so we were doing that week in, week out for, I'd say, 8 to 12 weeks. Definitely still, jumped and did the explosive stuff necessary. So after that kind of block, if you will, ended, did a little speed just to see where I was at, hit a bunch of PRs. I was like, great, this is cool. We're not even there yet. So next 4 to 6 weeks, moving a lot of weight as fast as you can. So percentage-wise, probably anywhere from like 65 to 80%. Sure. And you're just moving stuff as fast as you possibly can move it every single rep. And we're just going to see where that takes us. Like, I think I've built the strength. I just need to be able to tap into it and use more of the strength faster, if you will. And, again, just trying different things, seeing what works, what doesn't. Maybe I am just a guy that responds to an insane amount of volume because that's just how I've trained my whole life. But maybe it is. You just back it off a little bit, move stuff faster. Maybe you'll see a pop. Maybe you won't. I'm not too sure, but I'm pretty confident that in the next 3 to 4 weeks, we're going to be seeing some pretty gnarly numbers on the swing speed, ball speed front heading into the season.
Trying to move this thing as fast as we can. And it'll definitely move faster for you than me. Yeah. Just in training, like, highlight some of those numbers you hit. Because again, I think it's important to recognize that a sport like golf, people don't want to train for power and strength, but when you're swinging a golf club as hard as you possibly can over 36 holes, you've got to have some power, you've got to have some strength. We just haven't seen those individuals until recently on tour, right, who really kind of expose some of the lack of some of the qualities they have. And even golfers I've worked with in the past is, like, you can be stronger, I'm just going to hit it closer, right, is kind of the argument, which I totally get. But what are some of your best weight room numbers that have carried over and you've been able to see improve ball speed and distance?
I'd probably say, 605 deadlift, about 440, 50-pound squat, hit 285 on the bench, pretty standard numbers. But I would focus more on, like, explosive movements, so jumps, sprints, cleans, snatches, that kind of stuff. The better you can apply your strength into power, I think, would make a bigger difference. And it's like, it's no surprise that 99% of basically all long drivers come from a different sport, specifically baseball.
That's a great point.
And they're used to lifting heavy, lifting fast, throwing hard, rotating hard. It's like, you rarely ever see a golfer transition in a long drive. I think I really just got lucky finding T3 in 2020. It's also like on tour, the further you hit it, the more money you make. Like, that's a proven statistic. The farther you hit your drives, the more money you will make on tour. It's like, there are exceptions. There are the Zach Johnsons that'll win a major carrying the ball 270, but, like, you don't see a lot of new players that are at the top levels of even golf that are swinging at less than 120. Like, it was crazy 10 years ago to be like swinging at 120 miles an hour on the course. And now it's a new baseline. It's just like these kids that are 19, 20 are touching 130 plus on the course. It's like, I'm pretty sure if you take the next 10 guys that are destined to succeed on the PGA Tour, their swing speeds would be far higher than the typical average that you see. So it's like the game is changing. They're rolling the ball back. Like, it's all happening now. But, if you...
Yeah. And we've always talked about a piece of your game that was, for some reason, surprising to me. It makes sense in football. You want to be as fast as possible. You should train moving as fast as possible to train your nervous system to be able to move fast. I don't feel like I heard that at all in golf until we started talking about it. And you said you would take weeks at a time or even sessions once a week of where your only goal was to swing the club as hard as you possibly can and not to worry at all about where the ball ended up.
Haven't done a lot of speed training as a golfer, but coming into long drive, I could see why that's That's super beneficial. Guys like Bryson DeChambeau, who's actually crossed into long drive, did a lot of speed training, found a lot of benefits to it. Obviously, he's on the live tour now, but it's like, I don't see why you wouldn't. It's a pretty proven metric at this point. What I will say, though, now is, like, it's the same in football as it is in basketball and golf. Like, being stronger and faster in the weight room isn't going to make you a better football player or a basketball player or a golfer, but that base layer of that pyramid gets wider. And so as you go up in skill specificity, ideally that peak gets a lot higher, you know. You can really, and Tiger Woods talked about this too, where it's like hitting the ball far is a superpower. Like, you can just take things out of play.
Yeah.
A fairway bunker that sits at 300, I'm not even looking at that, you know what I mean? That's not even in play for me. Even if I shank it off the heel, like, it's going to carry past, you know what I mean? So it's like, and Tiger says, if Tiger Woods says driver's the most important club and it's in your best interest to hit it further,
Right.
I would listen. You know.
Does it benefit the, again, mid-90s golfer to have a day where they're working on speed, or do they need to come in, dial their swing in more, figure out their 7-iron, figure out their 60 degree, and not worry about speed at all? And then you can kind of, from here.
Yes and no. I think it, depends on, like, where you're at. If you're a 70s player, for sure, I think speed would be far more important. As for, like, the mid-90s player who, like, if you're hitting it out of bounds 5 times a round, let's fix that. And then we'll go into the, But I do think it's just more of a frequency thing. Like, if you're a 70s player, I would do it more often than a guy who's shooting in the 90s. That's all it really is. I would still do it if you're in the 90s, just not as frequently. Because the thing is, mechanics change once you add speed too, so you have to train at speed in order to make sure the mechanical changes that you make work. So it is in your best interest to give it some time and to try it out at the very least, and you'll probably notice a change. And for the vast majority of golfers that never actually swung hard in their life, they may think they are. You spend 50 to 100 balls swinging as hard as you can with a driver, things start to change. Things are going to start to hurt, and so I would definitely give it a shot. But if you're a high-level high school player, high-level amateur, definitely would invest in some speed training. Would help you.
All right, so we're coming up on time. Ronnie's got a couple of squats left. He's gonna hit some accessories. I got some training sessions I gotta run. But this is something we're gonna do more often. Ronnie has a really interesting background when it comes to a sport that is highly skill-based, turning it into almost a sport that's strength-based, with a ton of skill involved. And again, he's a guy that you don't see a lot of. You don't see a lot of golfers, if any, pulling 605 off the ground, being able to back squat 4 plates, being able to bench a pretty good number. We're gonna get with Ronnie again. A lot of really good knowledge. Again, trying to take what we do in the weight room and apply it to the long drive playing field. And this guy was the World Long Drive Rookie of the Year, right? So, like, his first year was that. We got plenty of room to go. So more of this type of training, more of these kind of interactions, and we're gonna get this out for you more often. So look for more Ronnie Shin content. If you don't currently follow him, look him up on IG. A lot of fun to train with, good buddy of mine. And this has been fun, man. So we'll make sure to do it again. Anything else for the people before you head out? So thank you guys for tuning in. Athletic Dads, thanks for checking it out. Athletic Parents, appreciate all your support. Like, subscribe, help us out, do as much as you can here. And I look forward to having more of this and showing off a little more Ronnie Shin. See you guys on the next one.